On this week's episode of The Normies Figure Out Rule 34 exists for the first time, and instead of ignoring it, they just never shut up about it and give it more attention than it deserves, is the Amazing Digital Circus. And looking it up just to complain about in your degenerate commentary videos is basically just the priest sniffing Esmeralda as he claims to want to eradicate OnlyFans. And as easy it is to avoid explicit content, I haven't seen any. It's not as easy to avoid spoilers these days. So I'm gonna give you a spoiler warning for the pilot, and also subscribe to allocations if you like animation warning. That's a pretty scary jump scare, so watch out, it's gonna hit you. If you don't, you'll look strapped. Anyways, the Amazing Digital Circus. Just a cute, snarky CGI animation about people in the Matrix, except Toy Story version, right? It's created by Gooseworx and Glitch Digital Production. I talk about Hazbin Hotel and Murder Drones, but the internet's indie animation scene is getting pretty interconnected. Gooseworx created Angel Dust theme way back in the day for Hazbin Hotel. Glitch Production is the SMG4 studio that produces both Murder Drones and today's topic, the Amazing Digital Circus. And I already went into this discussion of how indie studios are getting a chance these days in my Murder Drones video if anyone's more interested in some Glitch Productions lore. But another thing is that animation's kind of falling apart faster right now, especially from Warner Brothers, but even DreamWorks, Katzenberg, it's not going well for them either. So we really need to support our indies. But they both focused on creators I already knew about and followed with several different potential projects, and their final projects don't seem to have as much producer interference since the DNA from the creators as well as their tropes are in full effect in both of these shows. In the case of the Amazing Digital Circus, it has the Gooseworx tropes and even references of her other works, such as being a cartoony yet hauntingly disturbing and unpredictable world that feels like if Dr. Seuss devolves into an existential eldritch crisis. However, this show is different than her other shows because it isn't as weird as her previous content, believe it or not. Gooseworx has been animating in After Effects and other tweening programs for about as long as she's been making banger music and making me wanna bang weird things such as abstract sexy space concepts. I don't know why you had to make a black hole hot, but whatever. You can tell she had something to do with the music specifically in this show, given the complex rhythms. I kinda miss her signature mix of guitar and brass instruments. Yes, she manages to combine them, and it somehow sounds quirky, epic, intense, and terrifying at the same time, like her animation. I described their tone, but in terms of the strange world building being real good at show, don't tell, these surrealist, terrifying animations were very good, as well as some shocking attention to detail, but the best part was probably the comedic timing.
The ghost of the year is...
And these aspects are still intact. But the main difference is that in these surreal worlds, the characters are just as abstract. Even the closest story to this one in terms of structure being Elaine gets adopted, the characters, they're at least a part of the strange world. However, in the Digital Circus we have some anchors to reality, such as Pomni, who's a newbie to the world, and Ragatha, who's more of a straight man. And as much as I like being fully enveloped into a strange world where I fearfully don't quite understand anything and interact with the media by actively trying to piece together the puzzles, I mean, let's be real, the existential horror factor doesn't work out quite as well if we don't demonstrate how it affects the human psyche. I feel like there was some writing of Murder Drones that I didn't like the writing in that show as much, you know? The forced meta jokes coupled with a jumpy plot that was so lackadaisical to even understand the stakes, it seemed like the entire premise of the show changed every episode. For as surreal as the Digital Circus was, it feels more internally consistent in the places it should be. The ending of the pilot of Liam Vickers' show kind of felt like a U-turn, while this one feels like a very disturbingly natural evolution. I think there was probably some outsider input to make Pomni, the main character, way more relatable. I know it's weird I didn't mention the premise yet, but it's important here. It's about people being transported into a pretty empty, goofy, wacky, slapstick entertainment video game with no escape, not even death. It's basically purgatory daycare. It's essentially a psychological Lovecraftian psychological horror. Why did I say psychological twice? It has nothing gruesome, no jump scares, nothing that even tries to be scary. In fact, it tries to be goofy. Visually, it's the opposite of scary. It's a distraction. And there are probably some more dark secrets, just thinking about how eternal yet inevitable this prison is. It's horror enough, especially since each character represents a different response to feeling trapped. The horror is just concepts that fester in your mind at a similar rate to the main character, while also seeing Pomni desperately reach out for answers. She can never get one that satisfies. Psychological horror is already tough enough to do right. I've been online long enough where visuals don't really get to me anymore. Also, I'm an adult, so yeah, good luck with the FNAF jump scares. So it's my preferred method. But the weirdest part is it isn't just psychological horror. It's in a setting that should destroy the atmosphere and tension. A loud, wacky world of things to do. Goofy characters, unthreatening villains, fun toys, cute zany stuff, and yet alone. The characters explicitly state there's nothing substantive to do aside from distractions. Nothing to eat, to achieve, to survive, to kill, to sleep. The only reason to do anything is just to avoid going insane. And living in a lie knowingly is insane as is. I'll project your own political commentary here, society bad. Yeah, we know your 9 to 5 sucks, but at least you can maybe accomplish something. Just skill issue. I'm really bad at that, to be fair. And it isn't just heavy-handed dialogue. Pomni's expressions are funny out of context, but she's desperately confused and small. You feel her lose sanity over the course of the episode. And the final song, that's not the song, depicts the subtle mixture of emotions very well. I love it when the music has storytelling in it. It tries to play itself as normal, whimsical pilot, but the chords, they're off. It becomes gradually more elongated and sinister. The chorus becomes grand as it zooms out, showing off the overwhelmingly large, empty, existential existence of this, well, I'm about to spoil, computer world they are in. Honestly, the only real issue of the pilot is that we should have kept that secret. Yes, they're in a computer. I feel like that's a big spoiler they should have kept until a few episodes down the line. Keep it simple. Yeah, animation is good. Characters representing different reactions, coping mechanisms, and failures to cope, great. Sigma Jacks exposing our sins as a species.
You do this! What? It could be a completely unrelated question. You'll never know until it's too late.
What a loser! I'm putting him up here still.
He's 22 years old, which means he's literally mean. But the reason why this is the greatest of the mainstream indie animated YouTube pilots I've seen is due to the plot. A lot of pilots, they feel like pilots. Pretty animation, introduce a concept, quirky character interactions, really fast paced. But this one told both enough of a complete story on its own, accomplished character development, surprisingly good pacing, teased interesting twists compared to other pilots where the world building is straightforward at first so they don't have much rewatchability when it progresses. But there are twists and turns that recontextualize early scenes, making for good drama right out the gate instead of just waiting for good drama. The pacing and character balance is the best I've seen in this pilot when it comes to the mainstream indie animation on YouTube. All the characters show enough personality and do something with an A and B plot. They don't really feel like they're forced to contribute, but they naturally kind of add mystery and answer questions. Storytelling is still being very focused on visuals and not exposition. Also makes me like this one a bit more than Murder Drones. Still glad they're working on both. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Murder Drones' story, but I still like it, you know, it's pretty good. But dialogue-wise, I kind of do the opposite where Murder Drones says a lot, but doesn't explain a lot. Well, this one doesn't really talk that much, but explains a lot. What this means for the pilot is that it accomplishes not just a story that stands on its own, but also ones that brings out complex emotions of dread in the most absurd of settings. Every character feels fleshed out, even if they don't have a major role, and And it even has a complete nihilistic character arc for Pomni, but not one that completely shuts down any future opportunities, while having a genuine mystery left to make me curious, and not the kind where it feels like it's a straight trajectory. And honestly, with Gooseworx' other content, like, I love the vibe, I love them for entertainment value, and I wasn't even that hyped about this one when I saw the trailers. I'm not the biggest fan of the circus aesthetic, I'm sorry. But the writing here is just some of the best. For the community, it's already frustrating me. Not in the way you're probably thinking. See, I've spent way too much of my life online since 2012, and that isn't even counting my still frequent but more moderate use of the internet prior. I've seen horrible crap all my life from communities, so like, I get it. However, lately people seem to be focused on the self-righteous clout-chasing side of the internet in the worst ways possible. Rule 34, basically just explicit and icky images of, well, everything. It's a rule because no matter how sacred something is, there will be a perversion of it. Horrible, right? Well, here's something incredible you can do. You can just not look it up. I know, right? I've seen way too many people make entire videos crying about finding porn that they looked up on porn sites. Like, keep it to yourself, freaks. This happened when Jade Animation said that she didn't want Rule 34 of her, then the internet gave it more attention. She had to make a statement essentially saying, yeah, Rule 34 sucks, but you guys making giant ass videos telling me about how horrible this porn is and you showing it to me, yeah, that doesn't help either. That's actually way worse because I can avoid the other shit. Something similar is currently happening with the Amazing Digital Circus because Gooseworx also knows how the internet works. She was prepared for the fandom to become, well, a typical fandom. Telling people not to white knight her for her honor and let people have different opinions. Made all the characters above the AOC because Rule 34 happens regardless. But somehow, people actually seem to be blaming Gooseworx for Rule 34 doing what Rule 34 is defined as doing. Making up wild conspiracies and quote-unquote rumors that people behind the show wanted this to happen, and the evidence is that, oh my god, they made the characters age of consent. This is more proof of self-righteous people will get mad regardless. So many times I've just seen arguments under teenage characters existing because Rule 34 exists. So of course, she course corrects, evacuates before the inevitable hurricane hits. Every character is AOC, and you don't have to look it up and find it. So people are mad at her because now it means she's encouraging the unstoppable Rule 34. People online are dumb, what a shocker. My take-home message here is simple. First, if porn is icky to you, be like everyone else on the planet and not look it up. It's really shocking, I know. Like, why is this so tough for people to figure out? So I just have a message to the individuals, mostly Gooseworx, that I think she already knows. Don't let the internet tell you what to do. Don't let any of their judgments actually affect you. What they might call criticism, normal people will call delusional. Trying to maintain a fandom, superfluous. And you just kinda gotta stand back, ignore the crazies blaming you for what other crazies do, and anyone influenced by people saying this crap, just realize that fandoms are just a thing that exists. Pretty easy to avoid. Safe search exists. Never filter searches by newest on Twitter. Avoid DeviantArt entirely. TikTok is kinda cringe, but also pretty censored. And the more you click on YouTube videos, the more likely they'll recommend that content. So if you like to watch people mocking cringe comps, you'll have YouTube recommend cringe to you. I've been around the block once or twice on this terminally online sickening website that is every website. So overall, this show is pretty epic, guys. It's an 8 out of 10. Animation's really good because it manages to both have a lot of impact while looking like a low-key version of some sort of CGI slapstick cartoon. And it avoids the uncanny valley when it needs to, but embraces it when it needs to as well. It's a very well done balancing act, so I'm impressed. I'd say it's overall an 8 out of 10. Good stuff, go watch it. And ignore the fandom. This is probably one of the best pilots you're gonna see.
And if you like animation sub allocations, yeah.
Money, 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 money.